Story 1. Well, I realize now that I felt it for the first time when I was 32. I have been feeling it every day since. Story 2. I thought I felt it at 20 when I got together with my then girlfriend. We were together for 6 years. When we broke up, I was crushed and feared I would never find something like that again. Then a few years later, I met my wife, and what I previously thought was true love paled in comparison to what we have. Story 3. I was too young to remember, but I guess I was around 7 or 8 years old. I'm not talking about romance or obligatory love. My grandmother loved me deeply, especially when I felt unloved. She never went a day without telling me how much she loved me. That is true love. Story 4. Yesterday, I let out a huge, continuous release of gas and finally realized there had to be more to life than just surface emotions. Genuinely, it was a full gas evacuation lasting for a solid 45 seconds. I did not know it was possible. No solids, no liquids, just gas. The relief was profound. I actually shed a tear afterward. If I could feel that from releasing gas, then I know I can feel true love one day. Story 5. At 45, I realize I have never felt true love and probably never will. I have felt love of convenience and love of obligation, but never true love. Story 6. I think I was maybe 8 or 9 when my parents' constant fighting finally exploded into a divorce with the force of a bomb. My sister got a kitten, and I was initially afraid, but I found her outside the room she was supposed to be in, and no one else was around. I nervously picked her up, and the world shifted. It was instant and pure love, and to this day, I am a huge cat person. Probably sounds dumb, but that love was a long-term coping mechanism well into adulthood. Story 7. I first had 4, 5, and 4-year relationships, including one failed marriage. But when I met my wife at 28, I knew instantly that she was one of one in the world. We have been married 33 years now, and I am still shocked I got to marry the best, most beautiful person I have ever met. Story 8. Love comes in all kinds of forms. Love from a friend, a family member, or romantic love. I felt seen and deeply loved many times. As a child, you don't have a word for it, but as an adult, you know you felt it, so maybe at 3 or 4 years old. I felt truly loved by a friend when I was 14 years old. As for romantic love, I had to reach the age of 33 before I felt truly loved in a romantic way. Story 9. Been married for over 10 years and have 2 kids together. We still express love for each other every day. He is my best friend. I cannot imagine life without him. Story 10. Depends on how you define love. If we are talking about being in love with someone, not just a crush but actual deep feelings for a person, then it is around the age of 17. If we are talking about mutual love between me and that certain someone, never. Story 11. At 16, I think I did not understand what love really was. Now that I do, probably never again. Not in a bad way. At that age, I did not have the mental capacity to understand what was going on or the emotional discipline not to be sucked in by it. Now I am more mature, and love to me is a choice and a commitment, unlike the blind, blissful obsession that I thought it was before. Story 12. I felt dizzy just looking into her eyes. Literally. I had never felt anything like that before. Since then, my whole world changed, knowing that she is here. Story 13. I was in my early 20s when I met my fiancé. I am almost 30 now. I knew he was the one. I still feel that, and it only grows stronger every day. Story 14. I cared deeply for my best friend. It did not work out, and it was not always healthy, but it was the first time I truly understood a person, intellectually and intimately, with their best and worst sides. We still managed to resume our friendship a few years later, so I keep very fond memories of it despite the pain. Story 15. I met her a few times over Zoom for work. I never showed my face, so she never saw what I looked like. Once, we crossed paths in real life, just a fraction of a centimeter apart, barely a breath between us. In that fleeting moment, I felt she might be the one. For the first time, the rush didn't go to my body. It went straight to my heart. To spark a conversation, I sent her a movie as a New Year's gift. I thought it might open a door, but I never heard back. I still think of her almost every day, even though I've never really seen her. Her natural way of thinking, her quiet intelligence, stirred something in me. It made me feel like this was a woman I could take a risk for. I don't know where she is now or what she's doing. Maybe she's already found her lobster. Maybe she never even gave me a second thought. But I carry this little ache for what never was, and I don't think I'll ever quite forget her. Story 16. At 22, I realized love isn't just butterflies. It's wanting to strangle them and still choosing to stay. Story 17. I did not fall in love with anyone until I was 19, until I found a job. Within 6 months, I fell in love with 2 colleagues and made mistakes twice. It was probably not true love because I do not think about them now. Story 18. I had neglectful parents, which caused me to struggle with emotions and forming connections with others. Story 19. I don't know what true love is. I was in love before. I had a crush before. But for true love, I think you need someone else to love you back. Story 20. At 23, I met my second child's mother. After 6 years and 2 children, we broke up. 9 years later, we are back together. Story 21. When I was in 8th grade, I thought that was my first true love, but it turned out to be an obsession. I doubt that I am psychologically capable of true love. Story 22. Either 21 or 22. I am 24 now. I felt true love with a friend. Every partner I have had did not feel the same as it does with her. She feels the same for me. We are not together. It is just a complicated situation. Story 23. I do not know if it counts though. She never showed the love and we never dated. We did talk every single day and met, but she could never commit. Then she committed to someone within a month. It hurt for 6 months and I isolated myself. Maybe that was love. Story 24. I was 15. Her mother died. Her father could not handle the heartache and took a job 3 states away. I was devastated for a very long time. Story 25. Wanted to say in my teens, but it's hard to know really how to measure if it was love or an explosion of hormones. Story 26. Everything before that felt like love at the time, but looking back, it was just attachment or my trying to fill a void. Real love feels different. Story 27. When I was 16 or 17, I was dating my second girlfriend. I had one girlfriend previously, and while we really liked each other, it never felt like love and ended after about 5 to 6 months. My second relationship felt much more intense emotionally for whatever reason and lasted 2 years. Story 28. First real serious girlfriend. Felt such an intense feeling of love. As with most high school relationships leading into adulthood, it did not end well. Story 29. I was 5 years old when I first saw Lisa Wong. I did silly boy things to get her attention for 10 years, then finally decided to ask her out. Turned out another guy had asked her the week before. Story 30. I thought, but my dislike for that person now makes me realize that it was not yet felt properly. Story 31. People claiming to be 13, 14, 16, or 17 years old. How did you do it? Which creator do you support? Do you have any referral codes? Story 32. Almost 22 and still haven't experienced romantic love. Romantic love is not a thing for me, for sure. I have enough problems, and I do not want to end up like my parents. Also, most men find me unattractive. Story 33. I was 15 when I first felt that I was in love with someone, and about a decade later, at 25, I felt the kind of love where I wanted to marry the person I was with at the time. Story 34. She was 30. She taught me so much about how to regulate my emotions and break down what I was feeling and work through it. Story 35. I quit my job, moved to another country, and changed my entire life for her. It did not work out, but I do not regret a second of it, and we are still great friends. Story 36. At 17 and 34, one was my first close friend who I connected with on a level I have never experienced before or since. While at 34, I met my current spouse. He has given me so much, and I have loved him since our second date. Story 37. True love is just a human idea that is not even well defined. I loved all my girlfriends. I do not need the concept of true love. Story 38. Every love I have feels more addictive than the last. I am in love again, and I don't know if I can any more after this one. Story 39. I was 12 when I met her, 16 when I finally got to be with her, and lost her at 18. 19 years later, I think about her every day and regret being so careless. Story 40. I had love in my heart for my first boyfriend who I dated from ages 19 to 20. But my second ex, which ended a couple of months ago, that was the first time I was in love with someone so intensely that it hurt, and for that to be reciprocated. My second ex made mistakes that he probably still struggles to forgive himself for, and I was hurt by them too. I hope he knows that I am still here if he ever needs anything. My relationship with music from age 10 onward, if that counts. Years of lessons, art schools, and competitions led to the best and worst things to ever happen in my life. Yet I still love music and refuse to stop making it. I doubt anyone fully understands unless they have trained intensely for years or lived with someone who did. Story 41. I was 27 when I had my daughter. Then again this year during spring break, we were in church, and she was acting a little rowdy as 5-year-olds do. I told her to sit down, and she asked, "Are you mad at me? Am I in trouble? Do you love me?" I answered the questions honestly. No, yes. In that moment, I was reminded why I still bother to wake up. Story 42. When I was a toddler, I apparently used to paw at the television screen when Vanna White was on. That must be pure love. I was too young to be jaded. Though it is also possible I just liked the shimmery dresses. I do not know 6 of 1. The point is, she is only 68, so I still have a reasonable chance. Story 43. I am 44 years old and have not yet found what I am looking for. Though I have been married and had a number of long-term relationships, I am almost 8 years sober. In that time, I have realized that I was never treated how I should have been. I always settled and never received what I deserved. I hope I eventually find it. Story 44. I thought that when I was 13 or 14, but then I met my current partner at 18 and knew that those before were not the one. Story 45. I first felt it when I was 21. I think it was mutual because we were inseparable and often did activities like dating together. But neither of us actually said anything, probably out of fear of ruining the friendship. A couple of years later, he received an offer to teach English overseas that he couldn't turn down. We both met other people within a few years who became our forever partners. We are both very happy in our relationships, but sometimes I still wonder, what if? Story 46. I was quite young, maybe around 6 or 7. Back then, I had no friends and was generally bad at social interaction. However, we had a dog and he was my greatest joy. Just having him lying beside me while playing Nintendo helped me not feel lonely and sad all the time. He died when I was 18, and my world crushed. I am still not good with social interactions, but I learned what a heartbreak is. Story 47. I thought I felt it at 15, then 19. I really only felt it at 27. It is nothing compared to what I felt before. Story 48. At 17, I fell in love with my best friend. We are married, own a house, and have a child together now. I love him just as much. Story 49. Met her in college and yes, she was my roommate's best friend. Classic disaster waiting to happen. Spent 6 amazing months together before she transferred schools. Story 50. I fell in love with my on-off friends with benefits when I was a teenager. Then he stopped responding. Later, I met my partner of 12 years and I felt complete and content. Story 51. She was perfect. I knew from the moment I met her that we were made for each other. However, I messed up badly and threw away any chance we had. I am 51 now, and I have never forgotten her. Story 52. I met my husband at 18 and we said I love you 4 months later. But at 37, watching him with our daughter, I definitely love him more deeply than I did then. Story 53. Probably around 23 years old. It was definitely more than whatever I thought love was before. And when it ended, the pain was intense. Story 54. In 26 years of my life, I have never experienced how true love feels. The only love I have felt is from my mother, who I lost 4 years ago. Story 55, 21-22. I do not remember exactly what made me feel it, but I remember it was terrifying and exciting at the same time. I have been hooked ever since. Story 56. I felt it for the first time when I was 14 years old and have felt it since I was 20. It is not something romantic, but I feel a deep connection with my friend. Our in-person friendship lasted 1 year and continued for 5 years remotely. I can say that she is the most incredible person I have ever met. Story 57. After I paid her and she did not want to accept my money, she said to me, "This one is on me, sweetie. Thank you for a good time." Then I took the bus home. Who knew a 12-year-old could have this much fun and feel so connected to a random stranger while playing Mortal Kombat at a local arcade in 1992? Story 58. If you asked 16-year-old me, it was 16. If you ask 37-year-old me, it was 27. I was a young person who did not really know what love was until I grew up a bit. Even the woman I married at 29 was not a permanent thing, so maybe 58-year-old me will say, "That girl you started seeing at 36. Story 59. At 15, while he had a girlfriend, I ended it when I realized how wrong it was. I tried again with him at 17 when they broke up. I felt it again, but I ended it. I do not know why. I feel like he was my soulmate. Story 60. What is true love? The first time I felt overwhelming emotions for someone else that I described as love, I was probably 14 or 15. Story 61. Around 17 years old with my first girlfriend. Broke up at 35 and I was devastated. Tried to build a relationship in the last 5 years without any success. I am now 40 and done with dating, waiting for something to happen naturally. Story 62. I was lucky my first relationship included that. It made it easy to understand when someone did not love me or when I did not love them. Story 63. At 24, I realized I was in love with my now wife. It was not a beautiful moment. It scared me a lot because I had not felt it for so long. The last person I loved died when I was a child, and it scarred me badly. It took me time to overcome the fear that I would get my wife killed by loving her. Story 64. Before I turned 21, I couldn't talk to guys at all, and it was just too awkward. I always felt like they had some kind of agenda or were trying to flirt with me, and I'm not exaggerating. A few actually confessed their feelings to me. I was only comfortable being friends with girls. But then I met my first love, and everything changed. We started off just as friends, and he wasn't trying to pursue me. We texted every day, ate lunch together, hung out a lot, and slowly, it just turned into something more. Story 65. At 8 or 9 years old, I dreamt that Vivi, who was a year older, and I were kissing and were boyfriend and girlfriend. I felt very complete. Then I woke up. Story 66. My last relationship completely blew out of the water anything I had experienced before, 10 times over. There is still lots of life left to live, so we will see. Story 67. Romantic love? At 30, I was seeing someone else whom I was infatuated with, but it felt like I was forcing myself to fall for him. Then my now partner came into the picture, and it was instant. There was no doubt in my mind he was the one. Story 68. I was 24, genuinely head over heels in love with her. Then I found out she cheated on me, directly after we both confessed our love for each other. Story 69. I am in love right now. I'm 27. He said he does not know what true love is, but I am sure he is my true love. Story 70. Work on yourselves, people. Feeling true unconditional love has much more to do with what you feel worthy of than what other people give you. Hats off to those who feel it because it means you have learned to love yourself, which is incredibly important. Story 71. I thought I felt true love at 12, then realized that was not true love and actually fell in love at 17. Later, I experienced something toxic that I thought was true love, which took me 7 years to get over at 24. Love is ever developing, I would say. Be careful with your heart. Story 72. I am about to be 16 and I still have not had any special feelings for anyone. The comments here give me hope for the best. Thank you all. Story 73. Not romantic love, to clarify. Pretty much my current age, 42. I am not a parent, but I help out with my niece and nephews a lot. For kids is a lot, ages 0 to 7. Comforting hugs, bedtime, playtime, carrying tired kids, food, homework. It is the best, even though there are struggles sometimes. Nothing can beat the feeling of hugging a loving toddler. Story 74. First and only time, I felt like I was actually falling into him, like he was pulling me into his gravitational field, and I understood what falling in love meant. It did not last, unfortunately. Story 75. In 4th grade, at age 9, I was madly in love with Lee and Rogers. She wasn't really into me but told me she would be my girlfriend if I met her at the roller rink on Friday. When Friday arrived, I was so excited to go. It was going to be the best night of my life. Lee and avoided me all night, and I was confused and heartbroken. I cried all the way home when my mom picked me up. 21 years later, my wife and partner for the last 13 years, not Lee, and got a divorce. I was also madly in love with this woman, and it was devastating to learn that she no longer wanted to be my wife. I cried throughout my 60-minute commute for weeks. I lost 20 pounds, going from 155 pounds at 5 feet 8 inches to 135 pounds. I didn't have pounds to lose. The most awful part of that divorce was how small it made me feel. It made me feel the same way I did going home from the roller rink when I was 9. So, I was 9 years old the first time I fell in love and had my heart broken. I am currently 42. I have an amazing wife and an amazing life, by good fortune and hard work. Story 76. I thought it was at age 17 with my high school senior year sweetheart, but it was actually with my ex-girlfriend at age 22. Story 77. I don't think you can define an age. The older you get, the more you see what you called love as a crush. I would say I first identified love when I was 12 or 13, excluding familial love and friendship love. But who knows, maybe it was just a crush. And as I get older, I will feel true love. Story 78. She loved me too, but would never say it. I cannot be with a person where there is an intense connection that is only shown from one side and not expressed verbally. Story 79. I have had many crushes, but I have never actually felt love. I thought I did a few years ago with one guy, but I think I was just feeling physical desire. I genuinely hope I feel love soon. At this point, I am starting to feel really depressed. Story 80. I was 44 years old. I was given a basset hound puppy by my best friend. He was the runt of the litter and had a difficult time reaching 9 weeks. He became my whole world. Felt like there was a warm golden tree growing in my chest. He was diagnosed with renal dysplasia a month later, a terminal condition with no treatment or cure. I lost him 6 months later, and I still cry about it every day. He was dealt a cruel fate. He deserved so much more. A longer life, a better owner. My beautiful baby Cal. He was the best part of my life. He was the best part of me. He was my dog and I was his boy. Story 81. I was 15, and my girlfriend was 17. We were a perfect match. We had plans to travel the world, find a place to settle, and have a family. Unfortunately, she took her own life some years ago. Story 82. Bizarrely, 39. My ex's son. Best human ever. His father was abusive. I became a full-time single mother for 10 months to the boy while his father abused us both and his mother abused me. It was awful. I left for my own peace. It is so sad I had to leave him with his awful, toxic parents. Poor kid. I hope he grows up okay and always remembers he has value, and that some random woman loved him with all her heart. Story 83. I was 19. It was love at first sight. Being 2 teenagers in love did not lead to anything particularly amazing, but we are still on good terms. I am happy that I had that experience because it taught me what to look for. It is an indescribable feeling. Story 84. It felt like the world finally had soundtrack cringe, but yes, every song suddenly made sense. It did not last forever, but it was the real deal. Story 85. 13. Like a lightning bolt. At that age, it was probably better that we ended up at different high schools. I wasn't mature enough to avoid serious trouble. Story 86. Puppy love at 17 was wonderful. I was fortunate that it was such a nice, normal experience. Story 87. To assume you mean with a partner, it depends. At 20, I was incredibly attracted to a person, just straight up personality, the whole package. Way different than any crush I had. Being around them was like a chemical reaction. It made my brain short circuit. I still think about how special they were. It just would have never worked. At 32 now, I have been with my partner for 9 years, and I felt a lot like that with her too. But I truly feel that trust gets a little deeper every day, a different kind of love, and it is very fulfilling. A bit truer, but not to take away from those feelings at 20 that were also special. Story 88. I have felt deep mutual infatuation and limerence 4 times in my life. I believed it was love, but there seems to be a thread of toxicity in my 4 relationships that I am actually seeing a therapist for. Story 89. I am a 43-year-old male, no children, and never married. The short answer is never. Between my parents' divorce and the only ex-girlfriend I had, whose relationship ended on a bad note, I decided never again. To the "it's better to have loved and lost" crowd, I have been asked to trade places because I am not the one at the bar drinking. I am at home enjoying my own company playing video games. Outside the whole relationship stigma, my dog Sandy and another female dog named Eva have apparently adopted me. Story 90. When I was 16, I went to Sadie Hawkins on a whim and met the girl of my dreams. We dated for 13 years until we decided to get married in Las Vegas and have been happily married since. I feel lucky every day. Story 91. I was 23, but it did not last. Sometimes relationships do not work no matter how much both people love each other, and this knowledge was devastating enough for me to never want to try again. I am in a relationship now, but honestly, everything after it has felt pale ever since. Story 92. For someone or from someone. I was in my 30s. I'm not sure I ever really have, but that's okay. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. I've met and shared incredible experiences with plenty of people. However, I'm not honestly sure any of them truly loved me. Maybe I just wanted to feel loved in a different way than they loved me. I also have some specific things I feel define love. So you never know. It's hard to only see inside yourself when navigating relationships. But that's okay too. Story 93. I think I was around 16, honestly. Someone I haven't talked to in years, though we did keep in touch for a while. I am married with children now, but I still think fondly of her and hope she is doing well. Story 94. I am not sure if it was 16 or 19. I had my first serious girlfriend from age 15 to 17. We dated for 2.5 years. She was horrible, though, mentally, physically, and emotionally abusive, but I loved her. I started dating my wife at 18. The love I felt for her after 1 year of dating was different from what I felt for my first girlfriend. I am not sure if my first girlfriend or my wife was my first true love. Story 95. Not yet. Maybe never. Honestly, I think it is better to not know what it feels like. I cannot miss something I have never had. Story 96. I have one of those love stories that could be a movie. I met my wife when I was 6. I immediately fell head over heels for her and told her I was going to marry her. Fast forward, we married at age 19 and have had 28 amazing years together, and counting. Story 97. When I was in kindergarten, in front of the whole class except the teacher, I asked one boy to kiss me and marry me. He rejected me terribly. Great times. Story 98. About 18 to 19 for maybe 3 years and then a few more months later. Whoever said that nonsense about love and loss and it being better than never loving before can forget it. I don't know what it is, but I have never been able to get over her. Even dating other women, it never felt as right as being with S. Story 99. I was 11 years old. I was young for sex, I am aware, but it did not feel wrong and I did not feel taken advantage of. I thought we would get married and all that. Story 100. It was not my first sexual relationship, but she was my first love. It was not my last, though. It did not work out. Story 101. I thought about it many times, then I realized it was just because I was having an intimate relationship. The first time I felt true, unconditional love was when I looked into the eyes of my daughter for the first time when she was born. Changed my world. Story 102. I lost it. Now I am knee-deep in the water somewhere with the blue skies and breeze blowing wind through my hair. Story 103. What is true love? If it is what I think it is, I used to fall every day until 2 years ago. Now I hate everything. Story 104. I have been married twice. Between the two marriages, a total of 34 years. At this point, I do not think I have ever found true love. Story 105. At 16, we could just say 3 magic words and touch each other's hands. I could never forget those moments. Story 106. If I had to pick an age, I would say 18. A common time when many people first experience what feels like true love, with all the emotional depth and intensity that comes with it. Story 107. I am still in love with her. She is doing fine, probably working in a different field. I can tell she is traveling now. I still miss her, and I cannot get over her. Story 108. I thought I felt true love at 18. After being in a relationship for 7 years, she told me that she never loved me and that it was a mistake. It broke a part of me. I am scared to love again. Story 109. I was 18 when my first 2 nephews and niece were born. We have a big family, with all cousins born within a month of each other. Then again, the day before my 22nd birthday, my youngest nephew and niece, who are twins, were born. I adore all those children with all my heart. They are 13 and nearly 10, and I feel like the love grows as they do. I do not have any children, although I did miscarry when I was with my ex. It was one of those unfortunate early pregnancy miscarriages. I can only imagine what love like that must feel like. Story 110. I must have been 19 when I really fell in love for the first time. It was not like movie love with drama and scandals. It was something calm and cozy. We were sitting in the kitchen at night, drinking tea and eating biscuits. He listened to me with such interest, as if I was telling him something incredibly important. He did not interrupt or argue. He was just there. That is when I realized that love is not just about passion and gifts, but about being yourself, even without makeup and with many thoughts in your head, and still being loved. Story 111. Fell completely and madly in love with a boy. It was on and off for years until I ended the last on and off when I finally truly understood he was not good for me at 28. Story 112. I still have not. I do not have any attractions to any teenage boys my age. I am still waiting for the one. Story 113. I met him when I was 18, but I probably felt it more when I was 20 or 21. Even though we are not together, I still love him very much and want the very best for him. Story 114. I thought it was when I was 17 with my first love, but no, it was 22 with my ex-fiancée. Third time's the charm, I always say. Story 115. I'm afraid I am not going to find it after my ex. I felt so much that that was it, so I do not really know. Story 116. About 5 or 6 years old, the woman who was my daycare provider would care for me when my school was on vacation. She had moved since I went to her for daycare, and across the street from her lived a girl my age. She also spent vacation days at the daycare. I don't even know why, but I instantly fell in love with her. We would play weddings every single day and genuinely kissed, which just rocked my world. Her dad was also incredibly cool in my eyes, and her whole family was incredibly nice. They became close with my family, and overall it just felt wonderful. But then I grew up a bit more, didn't have to go there on vacation days, and we both moved on to separate schools. I didn't feel that feeling again until 3rd grade, when a girl in my neighborhood and I were put in the same class. The thing with this one was we were old enough to be bashful and shy, and too young to really date, so it was incredibly awkward. Finally, one of my friends told me to tell her that I didn't like her, which I foolishly did, and she cried for about 3 days. We ended up in the same group in high school and teased each other about it all the time. I thought the last time I would feel it was when I met my wife, but about 10 years later we had a child, and that familiar feeling rushed back. Then, 2 years later, another child came and the feeling returned. Now I get that feeling every day when the four of us are finally home together at the end of the day. Story 117. When I saw this girl at the age of 12, she made me realize that love was real. We became boyfriend and girlfriend in secret, and eventually we broke up. My life felt empty, and I went through a phase of depression. Story 118. This question is really hard to answer for people like me. I was emotionally neglected my whole life and childhood. I was also severely bullied by everyone everywhere. As I grew up, I started becoming obsessed with people. I can differentiate between obsession and love. However, I'm not sure. I have fallen in love a few times, but all of them were different, of course, and had other issues that make me question myself whether it was love or need. Story 119. I am in a very peculiar situation. I had an amazing relationship with a woman who made me feel wonderful. We continued seeing each other for a few weeks. I have been in relationships before, and I have been in love before. However, this felt quite different. It was like no effort or trying was required. We were just happy around each other. Trust was mutual, no issues. The problem is she had to leave the area. She wanted to do long distance, but I didn't think it could work. We still talk, and I still miss her a lot. Knowing it was only a few weeks makes me feel insane because that is no time at all. At the same time, I question if she was my special person who got away. I really do believe true love exists, and I think that was mine. Story 120. I realize I have loved many people and things truly. With the help of my therapist, I closed a bunch of those chapters and aimed all the love I was giving to others at myself. I cried for hours. I realized that it is okay if no one else loves me like that because I can. Story 121. When I was 14 years old, I fell in love with a boy I met in the park. We became best friends immediately and still are to this day. We speak most days. I am 38 years old, and it is the greatest love of my life. Story 122. I am now in my last year at Riverbend Junior High School, and I believe I first found love at age 10 in 3rd grade. There was a boy in my class, and to this day we still spend time together and go on dates. He is my trusted boyfriend, and we have been together for 3 years this July. Story 123. Probably when I had my greatest love, but it is not her who made me feel true love. It was myself. I saw and felt what true love actually feels like. Story 124. 17. The first girl I slept with. We went to different colleges but kept it going. She finally ended up cheating on me. We were fighting all the time. Long-distance relationships just do not work for me. Story 125. I guess that depends on how you define true love. I was 34 when I first honestly fell in love with a woman, loving her for her character above anything else. After a while, I realized she was not someone I would be okay with in a daily relationship, mostly because she only cared about herself. Then, I fell for another woman at age 39. I will probably marry her if she does not realize I am difficult. Story 126. I just know I am unconditionally loved by my father, but he is in heaven. I am very lucky to have a father like him and always feel grateful, even though he has been gone for a long time. Story 127. I truly loved him. I have not felt that way about anyone since. I still think about him a lot. I broke up with him at a really difficult time in my life because the relationship was no longer good for either of us. I absolutely shattered my own heart, but it was better that way in the long run. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.